This is the Note Closer Show, where you get the latest developments in distressed note investing and learn the secrets of how you can control millions of dollars worth of property for pennies on the dollar. Get educated and entertained by someone who has closed thousands of deals and lives to support you in achieving the same. Now, here's your host, CEO of We Close Notes, Scott Carson.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Note Closer Show. As always, Scott Carson, excited to be here with you today. I am really honored today to have a very special guest. And this is a guy that connected with originally back a few months ago on LinkedIn. We exchanged a few messages back and forth as a fellow real estate investor and podcaster out there. And then we had the good nature of running into each other at PodFest, and then with some of our friends, Joe Fear and Matt Wolf from the Hustle and Flowchart podcast that we've been on here before. And so I'm really honored to have our good buddy Kevin Brenner join us here from the Active Duty Passive Income podcast. Now, he's got a great podcast, especially got for those of you out there, our listeners that are current or past veterans, military. Active Duty Passive Income podcast, amazing group they've got going on. Amazing content. If you aren't listening to that, you need to go listen to it. But Kevin, he's an active duty United States Air Force officer, active duty passive income single family education chief, co-host of the Active Duty podcast, and founder of ADPI's Operation A.T.O.M, Action Takers Only Mastermind. I love that. He operates 9 cash flowing units in Savannah, Georgia, and Washington, D.C., and has recently founded Nimbus Capital Group, a nationwide capital investment firm geared towards affluent and accredited millennials interested in investing in apartment buildings and mobile home parks. So, Kevin, welcome to the Note Closer Show, brother.
It's a heck of an intro. It's a heck of an intro. Thanks for having me. I've been wanting to get on your show and talk to your audience, and notes is something that I when I started getting in investing, and I just want to tell your audience, I mean, I only started this journey for me in late 2018, but it has just become my world and my passion, and I just love it. But I had heard about notes, and I was just confused. I was like, you can't do that without owning the property. And then you read more about it, and then you kind of, really start digging into passive, like truly passive income. And it excited me. So I'm glad to be on your show and talking to your audience.
Yeah, man. I mean, and that's normal. Everybody's so used to the traditional, hey, I'm gonna go buy a house, put a renter or a landlord in it, we're gonna fix it up and flip it. And that's it's dramatized by that fictional TV shows we see.
So you're saying you can't flip a house in 30 minutes? Because they do it on HGTV all the time.
Yeah, exactly right. And everything goes perfect.
Oh, yeah.
Our budget works out perfectly. The first open house person that comes and signs a full contract.
That's not how real estate investing works. Golly.
It's kind of like comparing the military to the movie Stripes, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If I had Bill Murray as a troop, we'd have problems.
But let's talk a little bit. You got such a great audience out there, and I really want to spread the word to our listener base out there, because we've got some of our most loyal listeners are either current, past military, or they got family in the military out there. So, and it was great. I got an email from one of your listeners because you were honored. I was honored to be on your guys' podcast a few weeks back that aired just recently, and some of your listeners have reached out and talked about kind of some of the different difficulties that active duty personnel have. So why don't we dive into a little bit about that? Because I think, we're coming up on the 4th of July here in just over a month, and that's one of the big things I'd love to do is, hey, let's really shine a light on what our military is doing, and we can't have the freedoms that we have today without what you guys have done and continue to do for us. So what are some of the challenges in being active duty military? What are some of the things that you see when it comes to investing in real estate?
Yeah, and I love that you brought this up because a lot of military, so it doesn't really matter what service you're in. I'm Air Force, like you said, but in our organization, in active duty passive income, we call it a community. We call it ADPI Nation. In ADPI Nation, we have all services represented: Coast Guard, Marines, Air Force, Navy, any reservists out there, veterans. You don't have to be active duty. I know it's in the name. We get that question all the time. Well, I'm not active duty. Can I join? Yes, of course you can join. our goal at ADPI is to educate and teach active duty veterans, military spouses, military families, how to build wealth, and not just regular wealth, build generational wealth through real estate investing. And it's just a wonderful vehicle that we found, and the founders of ADPI. I'm so grateful for them for bringing me on board and allowing me to teach. But to your question there, Scott, there's a lot of challenges. I mean, when you think about a regular real estate investor, you most likely live in your market. When you're active duty military, I mean, I move around as an officer. I move around 2 to 3 years. I'll stay in one place 3 years tops, and then it's boom, time to go. So it's not a lot of time to kind of, especially if you're just getting into it, it's not a lot of time to really establish yourself, in a market, where as opposed to a regular investor, you might have lived in that market your whole life. If you've been there for 10 years, or, you have a job and a network and all this stuff. But beyond that, it's being able to manage properties from out of state, because ultimately when you're in the military, no matter where you buy, you will become an out of state landlord. And that scares the crap out of a lot of people. So, those are some of the basic challenges that we teach and we help overcome. And we say, listen, this is why you got to bake property management into your expenses on the front end. We all know as real estate investors that you make your money on the buy. You make your money on the front end, and then, you might get some appreciation down the top. But at ADPI, we are firm believers in investing for cash flow. Any appreciation, that's great. But if the deal doesn't cash flow, then it's a no-go. And that's kind of, what I help people kind of focus on within, like you said, Operation A.T.O.M, the Action Takers Only Mastermind. That's we give people all the education, and then we want to see them crush it and take action. And we have about 120 students right now who are doing just that. Some of which have signed up for your for Note Camp, which they're really excited for. But with those challenges, we also have a massive advantage. If you're a veteran, if any of your veterans are listening to this show, they're probably familiar with the VA loan. But they probably don't know that you can use the VA loan to buy up to a 4-unit property. You don't just have to buy a single family home. You can buy a 4-unit property and do what we call house hacking, like I did, bought a quadplex, and then lived in one, and the other 3 rented out. I moved, got a tenant for the other one, and was able to double the rent because it was just poorly managed. Do a little cosmetic stuff, double the rent, and now it cash flows like a champ. And I think that those. So we have challenges, but then we also have this like massive benefit. But only 13%. This is a crazy statistic. 13% of veterans or people who are eligible for the VA loan actually use it.
Wow, I did not know that. That's really a depressing ratio.
Yeah, I know. And for us, it's most likely it's an education thing. People just don't know, or maybe they're not ready to buy, or who knows, they can't buy where they live, and they're veterans. They live in a big city and they can't buy, and they're just like, whatever. But to know that you can buy up to a 4-unit property, it's really kind of a game changer, because that 4-unit property not only pays for the mortgage in most cases, it cash flows. And then when you move, we call it a PCS, permanent change of station, or when you're moving around the country, you just get a tenant for that last unit and you're good to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, great rates.
Oh my God, great rates.
When it comes down to it. VA loans. What kind of down payment does a VA loan require? Like a FHA where you bring 3% or 0% down payment? You just got to show up with closing costs.
So guys, for your listeners out there, 2018, August of 2018. So I a buddy of mine threw me Rich Dad Poor Dad. I was playing volleyball with him, and he's a good friend of mine. Shout out to Ray Northcutt. We were playing volleyball. He told me that he just closed on like his 5th or 6th single family home. He was a first lieutenant at the time. I was a captain at the time. So I outranked him, and I was like, dude, how in the hell are you paying 6 mortgages right now? And he was telling me, he's like, oh, it's okay, man. It's good debt. And I was like, classic, whatever. I don't, adult or young adult at the time. I was like, there's no such thing as good debt. All debt is bad, And, and then he's like, all right, man. And he threw me, the purple Bible. and I read it in like 2 days. And that was my epiphany. That was my turning point in life where I was like, oh my God. And then, so that was in the springtime. So fast forward a couple months, 2018, August of 2018, I closed on a 4-unit that I used my VA. With closing costs and everything there, I brought $3,000 to the table to buy a $350,000 property. That's it.
We're at
Savannah, Georgia. Mm-hmm.
Savannah, very nice.
Yeah.
Now I would like to know, you may have maybe seen that you probably have a higher percentage rate than 13% of your listeners that are using the VA loan though, huh?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, in our listenership has grown and just exploded over, over the past, I'd say 6 months now. And we love it. We offer so many free educational products. We have, actually, where is it? It's right here. Here it is. For your listeners who are watching, we have our book here, Military House Hacking, Amazon #1 bestseller. As you can see, not really big. It's not a long read. It's very easy, but what it tells people how to do it, it explains this strategy on how to use your VA loan to get into a small multi or any property and house hack it and make some money and start building that portfolio. So a lot of our listeners take advantage of the VA loan. But if you're new to the thing and you don't, the book is free on our website. We have a full free VA loan mastery course. It's like a big masterclass. It tells you from start to finish how to do it and what you need to do. And then if you're really ready to dig in, we offer some other educational products and classes and, but between the podcast, the book, everything, the VA loan mastery course, that is your starter guide. And I think a lot of our listeners use that, and they're building portfolios and they're building wealth.
And that's a beautiful thing to see, because it's so many people out there have opportunities that don't take advantage of it. I mean, I've got some friends and families been in the military, and they're not taking advantage of those things. And it just kind of, I want to pull my hair out. I'm like, why not? Why is it? Yeah, it's a chaotic time, but still, it's a great time. If you got basically free money throwing at your face,
pretty much.
Not, whereas if you rent 2 out of the 4, you're going to be in the black for the most part, and that's the beautiful thing too. And I know this is a difficult thing. People, every 24 months roughly having to move, different enlistment, moving across the country. But there are vendors in just about every city, for the most part, and most of the military aren't being stationed in like podunk towns. Can we agree to that, Kevin?
It depends what service you're in. So, I will say, as an Air Force guy, I have been blessed with some great locations. My first duty assignment was St. Louis, but I was too dumb to buy. I was too ignorant, not dumb. I was too ignorant to buy real estate then. I rented. I didn't have my epiphany yet. Then I moved to Savannah, Georgia, where I was actually stationed with the Army, which happens to be one of the Army's like nicest base. Well, I mean, location-wise, great base. Savannah, beautiful place. If you haven't been there, go. And then I got transferred up to the Pentagon here, so I'm in a big city. But a lot of Air Force bases are kind of in the middle of nowhere, so because they need a lot of airspace. But the Navy, you got San Diego, you got Hawaii, you got some really nice places. So depends on the service for sure. But it's wherever you go, there's always going to be an opportunity to implement some real estate investing strategy.
Yeah, and those aren't bad markets. I mean, there's opportunity there. The one thing our biggest base here in Texas is Fort Hood, obviously. Huge base in Killeen, Texas, which is not the biggest of cities. It's about an hour and a half in here. But the one thing I think it maybe concerns a lot of people is and I used to work up on that location after I graduated for Verizon Wireless, and it was always feast or famine. Either it was the city was packed or it was a ghost town.
When they would deploy, the whole base deploys, and then there's no one there, and then everyone comes back, and they're, Yep.
We'd sell a record amount of new activations, and then we'd have a record amount of cancellations because people are heading overseas, Yeah. So does that play a little point in where, I mean, there's always renters and people that can rent a property or short-term rentals in a lot of places for a variety of different reasons. But do you think that kind of leads into the misbelief that military, I can't be an investor because they don't know about the fourplex thing. They don't think about that. They think too difficult that I got to manage it. I can't make any money because I used to maybe the 1 unit side versus realizing if they're house hacking, it's a lot. The cost per door goes down dramatically versus a single family home.
Yeah, when you're dealing with exactly when you're dealing with vacancy and things like that. I think that does play a factor, but I think the biggest limiting factor, and this goes across the board to any investor out there, but the biggest limiting factor is fear of the unknown. You've never done this before. You're putting your money at risk, and you'd rather just keep it in that savings account or keep it where, people have told you to keep it. And, it just doesn't grow, and you're not actually creating wealth. You're just existing. So I think fear, it stretches into military, but it really speaks to the general lack of financial education in this country.
Yeah. That hits the nail right on the head there, because there's a lot of lacking in that educational space when it comes to finances and even just basic financial information for the most part. I mean, you and I both love Rich Dad Poor Dad. There's other things out there that are great books to read and educational series, stuff like that. But yeah, there's a lot of things that aren't taught that need to be taught, and especially when people transitioning out of active duty, the opportunities that are available to them and how to take advantage of that and figuring out how they're going to transitioning too is also can be a little bit of a difficult time, right? Too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And the transition period, there's a ton of people that think that if they're not active duty, they can't access the VA loan, but you absolutely can. If you're a veteran, I mean, there's some qualifications that you have to meet, but for the most part, if you serve an enlistment or serve, a contract as an officer, you qualify. So kind of just getting educated, and that's our whole thing. We're just all about, we started ADPI to build a community, to get the word out, and it has grown into, we have over 10,000 members in our Facebook group. We're growing at about 1,000 members a month, and we have like a 93% engagement rate, which for people who don't run Facebook groups, that's like, they probably don't know what that means, but that is insanely high because we're just out there providing value. And everyone, I think the biggest thing is most of the people are in the military or they're veterans. And when you're in the military, you have that bond, and being able to have that bond with someone else who serves or has served. We're all about helping each other, and, having the resource out there that is ADPI, I think has helped a lot of people. And it's funny you brought up Robert Kiyosaki. We were honored to have him as a guest on the podcast, and the entire show he did not talk a lick about real estate. He talked about his time in Vietnam as a helicopter pilot. He didn't mention the words real estate once. and we just talked to him about being a helicopter pilot in Vietnam, and it was still amazing. I mean, it's Robert Kiyosaki,
Right. Yeah, that's total like mind shifting right there. What? Rich Dad Poor Dad was a helicopter pilot. That's
yeah.
I want to see you in that uniform. I want to see some proof of that.
Yeah, I mean, he was, and this is like if you read Rich Dad Poor Dad, that before he was living in his car and all this stuff, he had already served. He mentions it briefly, how he had served, but he doesn't really focus on it. And yeah, it's a great episode. I can't reference the episode number right now, but it's up there, and it's pretty fun. It's a short little one, but yeah.
No, so how are most of your guys? Well, you may not know most of the guys out there, but what I'm saying is, you and I were talking a little bit about how you're in Washington D.C. You're working a little remotely when you can. You won't be back at the Pentagon in person, working for probably another 4+ weeks out there. But you've done some great things out there. You wrote a book, but you've also launched the your Nimbus Capital Investment Company out there. Let's talk a little about that and what your hopes and your goal with that is for you and your listeners and the active members of that.
Yeah, so this is kind of independent. This is a Kevin project. This is independent of ADPI, but it's something that I've always wanted to do. Within ADPI, I'm the single family education chief, but outside personally, I am very interested in commercial real estate. And I had started writing a book before I linked up with ADPI about millennials. You know, when I told you that story earlier, Scott, about, you know, getting RDP or Rich Dad Poor Dad thrown at me, and I'm reading it, and then I realized that a lot of people realize that, wow, we are so undereducated. And then I looked at it generationally, and my generation is specifically very undereducated, and they're fearful, and they should be fearful because of 2008. And now, oh, by the way, because of COVID-19, the economic reverberations that we're going to feel, the millennial generation has been royally screwed by not having an educational base, then getting screwed, you know, coming out of college into the, you know, a terrible employment, you know, trying to get a job then, and then now this, you know, that's all in one generation, all of these factors. And I kind of really wanted to dig in and learn how to spread that education, and really what Nimbus is about. You know, I'm a meteorologist in the Air Force, so of course I had to reference Nimbus cloud. But what Nimbus is about, it's about educating and really going after affluent and accredited millennials who have the funds to invest, but just don't know what to invest in. And we're focusing on large apartment complexes. So a partner of mine who I've met actually through the ADPI network, he's also in the military. He's 24 years old, has 15 units out in St. Louis, and has, you know, and he does everything from Germany. He's stationed in Germany, you know. So for all those people out there that think they can't do out of state investing, try out of country investing.
Yeah,
but
right.
Yeah, David and I share this passion about educating millennials, and we just launched, you know, Nimbus, and it's a very it's in its infancy, to say the least. But you know, if your listeners are interested, just check out risewithnimbus.com. And you know, shoot me an email. We'll set up a call. And I just love to talk about it. I love to network and tell people really about the benefits of commercial real estate, and how you can really, what we say at Nimbus is our mission is wealth creation for the millennial generation. So instead of, you know, those wealth management firms are like, oh, we're going to build your wealth, we're going to do this. No. We're going to take a millennial, a young guy or gal, and we are going to create wealth that will last them and the next generation down the road. I don't want that. I just don't want people living with regrets and saying like, God, I'm 45 years old now, and I should have invested in real estate earlier. No. We're going to catch you early, and we're going to show you how this is going to work. And the benefits are just outstanding.
Yeah, you're going to be you're focused on mobile home parks and apartment complexes and things like that with that. So, which I think mobile home parks is a hugely undervalued asset class out there. I think apartments are a little overpriced right now, but we're going to start seeing more of those distressed hit the market, as a lot of people overpaid for them over the last 5 years for the most part.
That's going to be interesting. So yeah, you know, my partner and I talk about it all the time, and we are, you know, our estimate is about 6 to 9 months. And these people who are buying, you know, these REITs and these hedge funds who are buying things at 4.5 cap are going to be in big trouble, because they way overpaid. And, you know, when tenants aren't going to be able to pay the rent, or they're not going to be able to, a lot of these syndicators out there and operators are counting on 3 to 4% year over year rental raises. And that is just insane. I mean, it's really just irresponsible underwriting. And I don't know what gets into people. I guess competition gets into people, but you know, I feel bad for them, but I think they're going to have some problems.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen in the next 24 months for the most part. I know that we're expecting a lot of stuff, but we're also waiting and seeing what's going to happen with the market. I know that Fannie and Freddie have looked at having permanent forbearance agreements to borrowers out there. It'd be interesting to see what happens.
Wow. Permanent forbearance?
Permanent forbearance options where they see like a 6-month period and a second forbearance agreement area. And it'll be interesting to see. Who knows? Yeah,
that's going to be interesting. Yeah, it's just, we're in such uncharted waters right now that, like, you know, I try to speculate, and every investor out there tries to speculate. But it's just like, we really don't know. And I think, you know, bringing it back to the military and having, in the military, we're trained at our core to adapt and overcome to varying situations. And I think as investors, that really helps us pivot into new strategies, because each market that we move to, there's going to be a new strategy. I mean, I knew when I moved to Washington, D.C., that I was not going to be able to purchase. I mean, I had in my VA loan, I could have purchased a 500 square foot property, but they want $1,000 a square foot here. No joke. It is insane. And I'm like, no, this is stupid. So I started a short-term rental instead, and that's doing great.
Good stuff. And that's the thing is, there are opportunities in every market. You just got to know how to evolve, adapt to it, and figure what's going to work. Like what's like I live in Austin, Texas, a very competitive market,
super
very overpriced market here. And I haven't bought anything here in Austin in years, just because I wanted to go with other places made better sense to me, more financial sense, for the most part. We've seen appreciation here definitely, and it's not saying I wouldn't buy anything here if it popped back up, but it's got to be at the right price. It's got to make sense for the most part. I mean, you're not going to be buying a mobile home community in the middle of Washington, D.C. or an apartment complex here, but but other areas of the country, Florida, I mean, mobile home parks are big here in Texas as well too. There's opportunities out there, and I love what you're doing and really kind of providing resources and a friendly environment for those out there that are looking to learn, they're looking to tap into resources to help them take that first big step. Because we all know that first purchase, that first investment is always the scariest, right?
It's that fear. It's getting over that fear of the unknown, and it's all about trust. Whether you're an ADPI or you're following me at Nimbus, we just want to have a conversation. And if what we do is not your cup of tea, that's cool. That's fine. But it's whatever. If you're getting into a partnership, whether that's a limited partnership with a syndicator or an asset manager, trust. That's it. Trust and communication, and that's. I think that we do that pretty well, and I'd like to keep that up as we grow, and even within ADPI, all of the core team members, we are just really passionate about educating others, and it's fun for us,
Well, it is definitely fun. That's why I started teaching. I mean, I started teaching
exactly
because it was a way to pass on this niche of note investing, but it also it was great seeing light bulbs go off. It's great seeing those aha moments from people, and then your A.T.O.M mastermind got to be one of the most rewarding things that you see out there. People that are taking that first big step, the action takers. Those are the things that really get you excited and keep you rocking and rolling, right, Kevin?
Yeah, and A.T.O.M is fun because we're really focused on those investors who are looking into the 1 to 4 unit properties. We might get someone in there who is like, I have a few houses and I'm looking to get into commercial. We have a whole nother program for that. Our military multifamily academy, fantastic program. It's, oh my God, it's so great. I could do an entire podcast on that alone. But and the other, it's like a fraction. It's literally a fraction of the cost of other competitors' courses out there. But in A.T.O.M, it's like a small monthly fee. And we really just, the host of the podcast, Mike Foster and I run that. And, it's just a private Facebook group, but we chat. I do videos. I just recorded one called Coffee with Kevin, where I have my little coffee cup here. And I, they always say, take an investor out for a cup of coffee. Well, I bring it directly to you. I bring the coffee directly to you. You can have a coffee at home. And I just talk about real estate investing. And this last one I recorded and just posted was about how to virtually network during a quarantine. Like if you can't leave and you can't go to your RIA that you're used to going to, don't give up networking. But seeing those, like you said, seeing those light bulbs go off and seeing, I think the biggest thing for me, we have a student who was about to close on a townhome, I think it was, in Southern Virginia. And he had no clue. He thought, because he was working with a realtor and all this stuff, and he was getting blown smoke up his butt, he thought that he was getting a good deal. And he came into, we do a live Q&A just on Zoom on Sunday nights, where we bring everyone together and just see how everyone's doing. They ask questions. It's great. But he told us about the deal, and Mike and I looked at each other and we're like, dude, this is a terrible deal. Like, not only will this thing not cash flow, I think it was, I can't remember the numbers. He was buying it for like $300,000, but it was only going to be able to rent for like $1,200 a month. And it had HOA fees. And I was like, yo, this is a terrible deal. Like, where are you in this contract? Luckily, he was before his financing contingency. So he listened to us. Thankfully, he pulled out. He destroyed that relationship with that realtor, but whatever, that realtor didn't know what the heck he was talking about. He just wanted the commission. And that for me was just a huge thing, because we literally saved this guy $5,000 a month. And that was huge. And he's a military guy, you know, he was a Air Force master sergeant, you know, he's not, yeah, it's not like I'm advising Jeff Bezos over here, you know? So.
Hey, wait now, come on now. But that's the thing, is if you don't know, you don't know. You don't have a place to ask questions. And that's one of the biggest things when you're talking about at the mastermind there in Orlando, when you mentioned your group, I was like, that's such a great resource for your listeners. It's such a great resource for other people out there too. Mm-hmm. And it's just, it's an amazing thing, amazing community. And that's what, if you don't know, you don't know. And that's, you know,
and it's not anyone's particularly fault. Like everyone, you know, you don't know what you don't know, just like you said. But if you can go out and find the communities out there, whether it's ADPI, whether it's Bigger Pockets, whether it's, you know, if you're doing it in notes, whether it's going to Note Camp, getting that information on the front end can really just prevent you from going down these pitfalls. Because in real estate, it's true. Everyone, the way the real estate industry is set up, and Scott, you know this, everyone kind of wants to help you close on a deal, whether it's the lender, whether it's their agent, whatever. But that doesn't mean necessarily that they have your financial interests in mind. So you gotta do that due diligence. And if you don't know how to do it, then you don't know how to do it. But educate yourself. That's all.
Yeah. Don't never make a decision without having the education behind it. That's the biggest thing. Biggest mistakes I've ever seen people make is they pull the trigger on a deal and they didn't know what they were pulling the trigger on. Mm-hmm. They thought it was one thing and they took their education from something else. Oh, this applies. No, it doesn't. You know, we all know that markets are different. We all know times are different. Especially buying a note is much different than buying your primary residence. Buying an investment property is different than buying your primary residence as well too, and knowing what's going to happen out there. Just because you can qualify for a $300,000 mortgage doesn't mean you should probably go ahead and still pull the trigger sometimes, especially right now.
Yeah, I would say so.
Good stuff out there. Well, Kevin, what's the best way for our listeners out there to connect with you or check out ADPI? Obviously, the podcast, we'll go check that out, but your groups, or connect with you guys over at Nimbus.
Yeah. So, connecting through ADPI, again, you don't have to be active duty to join. You don't even have to be like directly in the military or veteran. You can just be a pro-military person and you want to, whatever. We just want to educate as many people as we can, but being the military is our niche. So active duty passive income, we have a website, activedutypassiveincome.com. You can find out all the information there, get 16 different free resources that will help you totally free, no strings attached, just download them and have a good time. And then our Facebook group is where we do most of the stuff. So just Google Facebook, search on Facebook, Active Duty Passive Income. And you'll find me there. I'm on Instagram. My Instagram handle is @InvestorKev. Follow me there. I post some content, and we're leveraging that platform a lot. And then if you want to get to me, if you're interested in what I do with millennials and how I help millennials with Nimbus, we have www.risewithnimbus.com. You can learn all about our operation there, and or just email me. It's kevin@risewithnimbus.com. I'd be happy to set up a call and kind of show you what we're all about.
Awesome stuff there. Well, we'll make sure to have all those links in the show notes, on the We Close Notes website out there on the No Close Show podcast page there for everybody. Kevin, once again, thanks for all that you're doing, man. Thank you for your service, first and foremost. I didn't say it in the beginning, but thank you for you and your team, Kevin, and Mike, and everybody over there at ADPI as well for their service and their dedication to this country. Our hearts go out to all military members who are stationed all over the globe and having to deal with a variety of issues. We're always here to help out in any way we can. So, but thanks again for your service and everything.
Thank you, man. We really appreciate that.
Awesome. Well, hey guys, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of the No Closure Show. Like Kevin's mentioned, check it out. Active Duty Passive Income, amazing group, great podcast. Not just because yours truly was a guest on there, but they've got a lot of great other information on there. I have to go back and re-listen to Kiyosaki's episode.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a fun one.
But more importantly, I think we've all learned a little bit. If you know somebody who's in the military or past military, and they've got an opportunity for the VA loan, hey, have them check it out. Have them reach out, because that could be a huge opportunity to pick up a great piece of property, fourplex, and really add something nice to the bottom line as far as cash flow for a variety of things. So go out, take some action, everybody, and we'll see you all at the top, everybody. Bye.